I mean, the bottom line here is that sometimes things are just really far away. This is a good spot for a physical distancing joke. What is up, people? Dunna here, and today we're going to be taking a look and comparing these two brand new zoom lenses for the Sony E-mount full frame system. On this side, we've got the Sigma 150-600 f5-6.3, and on this side, we've got the Tamron 150-500 f5-6.7. So let's dive in and see what these are all about. Alright, so first things first, let's get this right out of the way and talk prices. The Sigma is going for $14.99 US or $18.99 Canadian, and the Tamron goes for $13.99 US, and this is kind of weird. It retails normally in Canada for $19.49, but it's on sale for $17.99. So in the US, the Tamron is less expensive, and in Canada, it's more expensive. But then they put it on sale, so it's less expensive. I'm not sure how long that sale is going to last or if that's going to be a permanent thing once they saw the Sigma price, but that's where we're at. For comparison, the Sony 200-600 is $19.99 US or $25.99 Canadian. And if you're looking for something a little bit more affordable than any of these options, you might want to look into the Sigma 100-400 f5-6.3 that comes in at $9.49 US or $10.99 Canadian. Now, of course, there are a couple of main obvious differences between these two lenses. The Sigma is 150-600, whereas the Tamron is only 150-500. So you've got a little bit of extra reach on the end of that Sigma lens. Which, I mean, if your goal here is to try and get as much reach as possible, then that's an advantage for sure, but it does come at the expense of size and weight, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. The other difference that we're going to see is the aperture. They do both vary throughout the zoom range, but on the Sigma, we're going from 5 to 6.3, whereas on the Tamron, we're going from 5 to 6.7 in a shorter zoom range. So that is definitely an advantage on the side of the Sigma as well. At the very long end of your telephoto range, you're going to be getting extra light with the Sigma, which can be an advantage depending on the lighting situation that you're in. Like I mentioned before, because of the extra reach and the wider aperture on the Sigma lens, you've got a bigger and a heavier lens than the Tamron. The Sigma comes in at about 27 centimeters, whereas the Tamron is only about 21, so you've got a 27% longer lens on the Sigma. As well as when you extend the barrel, the Sigma extends just a little bit more too. So it's even more longer at the long end. And then for weight, we've also got 2.1 kilograms on the Sigma, whereas we've got 1.9 on the Tamron. So you've got about 11% heavier on the Sigma. So if packing light and not taking up a bunch of space in your bag is going to be a priority for you, I mean, realistically, neither of these are probably a good option, but the Tamron is a little bit better in that category. As far as build quality goes, both of these lenses are fantastic. They feel like they're really rugged and durable. If I absolutely had to pick a favorite, I'd say the Sigma pulls ahead a little bit in this category, but I'm really splitting hairs there. They both feel great. They've both got some weatherproofing. Tamron calls it dust and moisture resistant. Sigma calls it dust and splash resistant. They've both got very similar tripod collars, and they've both got Arca Swiss plates on the bottom of those tripod collars, so you don't have to add an extra plate to this, which is really awesome. The one thing that I really love about the Sigma tripod collar that you don't see on the Tamron is that if you're shooting in portrait instead of horizontal, at the 90-degree mark, there's a little click, a physical click that you can feel where it locks into place, so you can get a perfectly vertical shot. On the Tamron, we've got these little markings that you can line up, but I did really like on the Sigma that there was a physical click. It just made it so much easier. Just a quick pause here. I'm going through all the photos that I took with these two lenses, and I thought this was the perfect opportunity to talk about the sponsor of this video, Optyx. What's the process for finding the best photos in a batch? You're going through and you're examining every single photo back and forth, one by one. Is this one better than the one 10 photos ago? Actually, you know what? I think if we go forward a bunch, they're smiling more. It can be absolutely frustrating, but thankfully there is a better way to cull through your photos with the Optyx app. Optyx uses AI to automatically analyze your photos and group them together in similar photos, as well as picking the sharpest and the most smiling faces. All you have to do is hit the auto cull button. There are different autocull profiles and you can customize your own to whatever kind of labels you like to use in your workflow. Optyx uses industry standard metadata, so once you're done culling in Optyx, you can move over to Lightroom or Capture One or pretty much any photo editor out there and you'll see those same star and color ratings. And even if it's not the kind of project that you can auto-cull, it's really great for manually culling through your photos as well. Optyx can automatically highlight out of focus subjects, it's got advanced face recognition to find your best shots, and it's so much faster than the photo editors at just clicking through the photos, no more laggy loading time. So if you're sick and tired of a slow culling process, you want to turn around your shoots faster and save your creative energy for where it counts, you can start a free trial on Optyx, Mac, and Windows. There's a link down in the description. I highly recommend giving Optyx a try so you can cull less and shoot more. Huge thank you to Optyx for sponsoring this video. Now, even though in US dollars the Sigma is a little bit more expensive, you do get a little bit more with the Sigma when you buy it. So of course you get the lens, you get the lens hood, you get this alternate lens cap, which is really cool because even if you're using the lens hood, you can still put the lens cap on it. And we've also got a more traditional lens cap as well. It comes with its own neck strap, so you can attach that to the tripod collar and make it easier to carry. And it also comes with a nice big carrying case that has a shoulder strap. Normally I'm not so into these kind of lens bags and stuff because I just throw them in my backpack, but with a lens this big, it's nice that it comes with its own. The Tamron comes with the lens hood, and then we've got our lens cap. No fancy straps, no fancy bags, nothing like that. The Sigma has a slightly deeper and more rubbery kind of grip on the focus and zoom rings, which I really like, whereas the Tamron is a little bit more shallow, so there's less to grab onto, and it's a little bit more of a kind of plasticky feel. The zoom is a little bit more rubbery, but the focus ring is definitely plasticky and doesn't necessarily have the greatest feel to it. As far as buttons and dials go, there's a lot. Starting with the Tamron, we've got a 3-way switch for vibration control or stabilization. Then we've also got an on-off switch for the vibration control. We've got an autofocus manual focus toggle, and then we've also got a focus limiter, which is pretty common on these long lenses. Moving over to the Sigma, we've got a 3-way custom mode switch. Then we've got a 3-way optical stabilization switch. We've got our focus limiter, and then we've got our autofocus manual focus toggle, as well as we've got a custom button up on top of the lens. And then on the Sigma, we've got one more switch that's for the zoom ring. It's a 3-way switch. We've got L, T, and S. L is locked, so I can't move the zoom at all. T is a little bit tighter of a zoom, so it's harder to move, so it won't be slipping on you without you wanting it to. And then S is nice and easy to move, so it will slip on you, or you can use it with your hand like this. So rather than actually using the zoom ring, you can just push the zoom out. And the Tamron has something similar. So we do have a lock switch, so you can lock it closed so it's not moving on you at all. But they've also done this really neat clutch thing with the zoom. So I can zoom it nice and easy. But if I get to a point where I'm like, okay, that's where I want it, I can push this clutch out. You see this little white line there, and then it won't move unless, like, I have to really push on it. But I think for the most part, that's allowing you to kind of lock it in a position where you want it to stay. That's a really cool design. I really like that. In fact, it's so cool that you almost don't need to use the lock switch at all. Like I mentioned before, both of these do have optical stabilization in the lens. Tamron's is a 3-way switch, so you've got standard, panning, and then framing priority. And then Sigma's got a 2-way switch, which typically would be standard and then a panning mode. In my experience using both of them, I felt like the Sigma was a little bit smoother. There's this moment when you press your shutter button halfway down and it turns on the stabilization, and it just felt like it really locked into a stable mode when I was hand holding. The Tamron definitely helped, but no matter which mode it was in, it never felt quite as smooth as the Sigma was. And as far as the framing priority mode, I felt like it worked very similarly to the standard mode, so I'm not 100% sure what the thought is there or how much of a difference there actually is between those two modes. In terms of focusing, I thought both of these performed absolutely fantastic. I didn't run into any issues. There were very few missed shots, which is saying a lot because especially when you're shooting at such long focal lengths, it can sometimes be hard to get right on what you want it to get on. As far as manual focusing goes, I definitely liked the Sigma better. The focus ring on the Sigma is just much nicer to use, and it feels like it has a much better response. Like I mentioned before on the Tamron, it's a little bit more plasticky. There's less grip to it, and the actual ring itself feels like it has this kind of weird plastic on plastic rubbing kind of friction, as well as the actual response of the focusing didn't feel quite as intuitive as the Sigma. Now, one of the cool things about these lenses is that they both have a great minimum focusing distance. The Sigma has a 59 centimeter minimum focusing distance, so that's a 1 to 2.9 macro ratio, and the Tamron has a 61 centimeter minimum focusing distance, so that's a 1 to 3.1 macro ratio, which is really cool. At 150 millimeters, you can get some really cool up-close shots with both of these. One thing to note for people who use circular filters, the Tamron has an 82 millimeter front filter thread, which is a pretty common size, whereas the Sigma is a 95 millimeter front filter thread. So it does still have it, but it's a bit of a less common size. Not necessarily a deal breaker, and I definitely use filters less on my longer lenses like this, but just something to keep in mind if you're a filter user. And then of course there's image quality. Honestly, I went out shooting with both of these and I was really happy. They're both really sharp in the center. There is a little bit of a fall off on sharpness around the edges. Without getting too deep into the crazy pixel peeping, I would say that this is probably a tie between these two lenses on image quality. Neither one stood out as having way better image quality than the other. I really like the autofocus look on both of them. The Sigma maybe a little bit more than the Tamron, but again, I think they both performed really well, and if you're choosing between the two of them, I think it's going to come more down to features, size, price, those kinds of things rather than the image quality, because they're both fantastic. So that's a quick look at these two lenses, but as always, I want to hear from you. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of these two lenses and which one you might pick up if you were looking for a telephoto zoom. And on your way down there, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you don't miss out on future reviews and tutorials. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Zoom, zoom.